Okay, I think I got this right. Hey, troops. I'm trying to figure out this program. Never used this before. So this is going to be fun. Well, it's going to be fun for me. You'll probably think I should know this by now, but whatever. All right. I am going to do some commentary on a recent conversation. I don't really think it was a debate. It was a conversation by Charlie Kirk with a vegan guy. Of course, because vegan's what I do, right? So the vegan guy, his name is Michael Bolatek. I hope I got your name right. I probably didn't. I'm sorry, Michael. All right, but I tried. All right. So Charlie Kirk had a guy from the audience ask questions, which he does when he does his presentations. And I like Charlie's responses. A lot of them make me think. Even the ones I disagree with make me think. So I guess you would consider me a fan. I'm probably in agreement with him 80% of the time, but I'm in agreement with probably a lot of Christian pastors that eat meat 80% of the time, or even the rip-off televangelists that everybody, knows of. It's not so much the person, it's the message that I would agree with, maybe not the televangelist, but you get the idea. So I'm going to do some commentary on this because Charlie brought God into it again, and the vegan thing is going on. So it just seems like something I'd have a fun time doing. I watched it once. I also heard an interview with this Michael guy, and you think I would have got the name right then. I probably did, but I probably forgot it because I'm blonde and we have a right to forget things more than most people. So either way, I did hear an interview with him on Natalie Fulton's show. I caught a few minutes of it on David Ram's. I'm like, wow, this is popular. And I'm like, but none of them are really talking about the whole Christian part of it. So since that's my jam, I figured I'd give it a shot. So let's just hit, where is this at? Oh, here's the fun button. Oh, look at that. I did it right. Yay for me. Okay, let's just play.
Question. Yeah, right. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. So I've seen, based on most of your clips, that I agree with most of your beliefs and stances on things. Besides
Israel.
No, there's one.
I guessed.
Okay, you know what? Right there, that kind of makes me wonder, why he said Israel, because. All right, he's on stage. I'm looking at this thinking Charlie Kirk isn't just doing this political stuff because he's trying to make the world a better place. I think he is. But he's also knows he's in a spot of being an entertainer. And as an entertainer, you kind of read the audience and you're going to make judgments. I think everybody makes judgments on people. Doesn't mean they're right judgments, but going into it, you look at me with the long hair and stuff back in the 70s, everybody thought I was on drugs. I'm straight edge. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't get high. I don't do any of that stuff. But I understand that people would judge from the way I look. He's doing the whole Israel thing. I think, is he judging it based on the way over here? I don't know how to point. The way this Michael guy looks, I don't know. So I thought that was kind of rude. Maybe I'm just reading that wrong. Possible. Oh, well.
There's one topic that I disagree with your logic on. And I've seen when you debate other people on this topic, oftentimes they get kind of shoot off the mic. So I ask that you please give me a fair chance to debate. I believe that the breeding, exploitation, and killing of animals for food when we do not have to is immoral. And obviously you...
Did you lose a bet?
No. So...
I'm not laughing with the audience. I'm laughing because it's just sad. I know Charlie knows his audience is in his pocket. They're all not going to want to go home feeling guilty about eating products made from animal abuse, which is what this guy, Michael, just kind of brought into the whole game. Charlie doesn't want to deal with that. So he makes it like, did you lose a bet? So it gets a laugh. Okay, I get that. Not exactly what I would do if I was entertaining that night. But here's the bad part. Did you lose a bet? Michael's saying, I don't want to do anything that hurts animals. And Charlie's like, why? Did you lose a bet? Only losers want to live a life that don't cause animals pain and suffering. I don't think Charlie really hears the way he said that. I think Mr. Kirk probably regrets saying that. but at the same time, just went for the cheap laugh. All right, let's see.
So again, I'm serious. I would ask for a fair chance at a debate without shooting me
Good
off the mic
response.
or making jokes, please.
What do you eat?
What do I eat? Like for protein,
Sure.
Ooh.
I eat
See, that part, Michael, I would have watched on. Like for protein, because I know you said that, or I'm thinking you said that because, that's so often us vegans hear that. Where do you get your protein? And it gives Charlie something to go on, which got him a giggle. And now he's kind of enjoying that ride, I think, a little bit too much, unfairly also.
tofu, nutritional yeast, seitan. I easily get over 200 grams of protein per day.
It's a lot of tofu to get 200 grams of protein, man.
That's not I have like about a pound a day. That's not my main source.
Okay, again, Charlie's going for the joke with, that's a lot of tofu. Well, he didn't say he's only getting it from tofu. He's getting it from seitan and other sources. But I think the reason for that questioning is he is automatically has in his mind where he's going to go with this, because he has to pull it away from the, animal exploitation, because nobody in that audience, in him also, are going to want to be guilty of animal exploitation or animal abuse or animal suffering. So he has to pull it away from there, and that's what he's using the jokes for.
That gives me about 40 a day. But I get 200 grams a day for lifting. In terms of actual health for humans, we do not need that much. We barely even need 100 grams a day, which is easily obtained through plants.
Okay, so what is your contention? That we should outlaw or make it harder to eat animal-based protein?
No, I'm not as much concerned about the legality of it, more so the morality.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good answer. I'm more concerned about the morality. That's a good answer, because, we don't want to legislate this. People should give up meat because it's the wrong thing to do. They shouldn't give it up because it's the law. I think I heard Earthling Ed say something similar to that.
So are human beings equal to cows?
I would put.
I don't know where he gets that even as part of the question. Michael said nothing about humans being equal to cows. He just said he doesn't want them to be exploited. Why is that? I don't know. Okay.
Human beings above cows.
Okay, so what moral? I mean, we don't want to see animal cruelty, but what?
No one wants to see animal cruelty, but I want to see where it goes.
Moral worth would you say a cow has?
I would say that a cow has worth in the sense that we should not, like any sentient animal, cause them suffering or kill them if we do not have to.
Right. So you don't eat fish either, I assume?
I don't eat any animal products at all.
No animal products. And no dairy?
No.
So full vegan?
Yes.
That's what a vegan is. I mean, does Charlie not know that? I'm going to assume Mr. Kirk does. And he's looking for something to make fun of, and he thinks, does he think he's belittling this guy because this guy doesn't eat all these? I don't know.
Wow. Okay. Do you know that there would actually be fewer cows if we didn't eat them?
I'm aware, yes.
So you would argue for less cows, not more cows, basically.
I am against the breeding, exploitation, and slaughter of them for food.
What obligation?
See, that's a great answer, and I don't know why anybody would question that. Okay, as a Christian, I would say we already have enough cows. God is in control, and he will make cows reproduce at the rate he wants cows to reproduce at. But for us to artificially breed animals, artificially inseminate animals to breed more cows into existence so we can exploit them, no, why would I want that? That's animal abuse.
Obligations do we have to wild animals?
He's asking about wild animals. What has this got to do with animals that are forcefully impregnated and bred into existence on factory farms for no purpose other than feeding human gluttonous desires?
I mean, The animals that we eat are not wild animals. They're domesticated, and we specifically breed, control, and kill them. We control their whole life, so they're not really wild.
Should we stop other animals from being carnivores?
I wish we could have stuck on that one a little bit more, because should we, Charlie's changing the subject. Michael's presenting what I consider to be consistent point of view, that morally we have a responsibility not to do something that involves animal abuse. I wish you would have used the term animal abuse a little bit more. That's really the way. It's from my experience when I'm talking to Christians, that is the way to get across the message. We can get into other things later on, but that foot in the door for me has always been focusing on the Christian's moral duty to be, merciful when we have the opportunity.
No, because those animals need to eat, like a lion needs to eat an antelope to survive. So in a survival situation, I believe it is okay to eat animals, but in the modern day, we do not need to. And I believe that we were designed by God not needing to eat meat.
What scripture are you referencing?
Genesis 1:29.
Right, and it's you mean the scripture says God gave dominion over the animals?
No, the one
of the
that
earth?
says, "I've given you every seed-bearing plant, fruit, and tree on this earth, and for you, that shall be meat."
Right, but
okay. I think Mr. Kirk knows better on this one. He knows that verse 129 says plants, so he's got to know by now. And for him to bring verse 28, where God gave man dominion, in verse 28, in verse 29, he gives us vegan boundaries on our dominion. I don't think Mr. Kirk has ever heard it presented that way. He only takes that one verse, dominion, which is very common. A lot of Christians do. They just take that God gave us dominion, and they don't read the next two verses after it. And then the third verse after it, in 28, God gives us dominion. 29, humans are to eat plants. 30, animals are to eat plants. And in 31, God says, this is perfect. It's all very good, just the way I want it. There was no death. There was no animals being eaten in the Garden of Eden. Okay, so Charlie's trying to pull the dominion in there, even though verse 29 wasn't about dominion. I don't know why he did that. I think he's trying to get away from what this guy Michael's saying, which I get the impression Charlie's getting a little bit worried here, because, I don't want to say because I don't know for sure.
Again, just to continue a little further, to be clear, in the Noahic covenant, it does allow for animals to be
I'm aware.
killed.
So
Right.
Okay, in the Noahic covenant, Charlie just went from Genesis chapter 1, where God, I don't know, left or right, I don't know where I'm at on the screen, if it's seeing in mirror. Genesis chapter 1, God made the world, everything in it, the birds, the fish, the plants, the sun, the stars, the moon, and everything up from verse 1 to verse 31 is a vegan paradise. Okay? Then in chapter 3, I'm going this way. Okay, I'll go this way. Chapter 1 here. Then chapter 3, sin enters the world, sin and death, and everything goes down the toilet from there. It just gets really, really bad. So much so that by Genesis chapter 6 through 9, God has to flood the world. Why? Because there's so much violence and evil in the world after sin entered the world that God cleans it all out. And now, so he reboots it all, but I'm going to go back just to hear how he phrases
on this earth, and for you, that shall be meat.
Right, but again, just to continue a little further, to be clear, in the Noahic covenant, it does allow for animals to be
I'm aware.
killed.
Okay, yeah. So in the Noahic covenant, we got Adam and Eve, and then we got Noah. Okay, we're talking, what is that, 1,200 years? I think it's well over 1,000 years time for one after sin enters into the world. We don't know exactly for sure how long between the creation of Adam and Eve and Genesis chapter 3 when they first sinned. I mean, it could have been a short time. It could have been years. We don't know. The Bible doesn't give us that information. I don't know any extra biblical sources either that give any insights to that. But once sin enters the world, for Mr. Kirk to come in and say, yeah, well, the Noahic covenant is dealing with a sinful world. We're not supposed to be giving in to sin. We're supposed to be fighting it. We're Christians.
So after the flood,
And just to be clear, doesn't the law give guidance on how to kill animals? Like how to kill animals in certain ways?
Okay, now he's bringing in the law. Okay, this is the law of Moses. We got Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Moses over here in Deuteronomy is talking about the law that all, the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, the Hebrews are supposed to keep when they're doing their sacrifices. Again, these are people that were already doing sacrifices. When God gave those laws on how to eat the meat we could eat, it was associated with animal sacrifice, and people were doing this many animal sacrifices all the time. God came in and said, no, you can't do it that way. You got to do it this way. And it can't be done this way. It has to be done that way. And then God, by doing those rules, was legislating, was deregulating, was bringing it down. Is deregulating the right word? I don't know. Okay, he was bringing it down to the point to where they were only able to do this much animal eating and this much sacrifice. And then later on, when we get to the latter prophets like Amos and Hosea and Jeremiah, God's like, I didn't want sacrifice at all. So God is weaning people off the system. Again, Mr. Kirk is using a sin-filled world and a sin-filled message of reconstructing the nation to justify a gluttonous desire to eat animals. But we've gone from, he started with Noah, and then he jumped another 1,000 years or so ahead to Moses. He's popping around from different dispensations, and I can't believe Mr. Kirk's doing that. Is he doing it because because this Michael guy over here, why does my hand disappear when I do that? I don't know. Because this Michael guy is really getting the best of him. Now, the audience doesn't think so, and Mr. Kirk probably doesn't in his brain understand that he's really being made to look stupid. But to any of us that have read the Bible, realize you're kind of jumping all over there, dude, trying to justify something that you just,
Bible is explicitly pro-meat eating, so much so that they would kill an animal as a sacrifice to God, or...
Okay, the sacrifices were never God's original idea. That was the pagan influence that was brought in. God never ordered animal sacrifice. He regulated the sacrifices they were already doing, like I just said a minute or so ago. It's not pro-meat eating. I'll give you an example. When Moses, over here, remember, got all the Jews free from underneath Pharaoh, under his rule of, Pharaoh's dominion, he pulled them out. And while they traveled 40 years in the desert, God fed them manna. And then in the book of Numbers, it even goes so far to say that the people were angry. They're like, oh, we missed the meat that we got to eat when we were slaves in Egypt. Can you believe that? Here, God is saving them from 400 and something years of slavery. And they're like, and feeding them while they're traveling in the desert for 40 years. I don't know if you remember that part. He fed them manna from heaven, which is like a bread type thing. They still, after 400 years of slavery, still getting food from God, traveling to the promised land where they're all good. They still like, God, we want meat. I mean, talk about the addiction. So what did God do? God said, fine, I'll give you meat. I'll give you so much meat, you'll choke on it while it's coming out your nose. And he kills everybody for their gluttonous desires. Read Numbers chapter 11, Mr. Kirk. You might have a different point of view about the Bible being pro-meat eating. Does it talk about it? Yeah. But you got to read the context of each one, and you might find out it isn't as pro-meat eating as a lot of people would have you think. Perhaps Charlie's just victim of poor teaching.
Kill the fatted calf in celebration of something.
I mean, when Jesus came, he ended the sacrifice, the animal sacrifice. So, again, I think during that time, there was a lot more food shortage.
Well, hold on. Jesus ate...
Okay. I like what Michael said here, because not about the food shortage. That part I wouldn't go for. But I would use... Charlie's using sacrificial laws that happened, that were done away with. He's using sacrificial laws to defend meat eating. I'm having way too much coffee today. He's using sacrificial laws. He's using the law of Moses to defend meat eating, when Jesus comes in way over here, and his sacrifice puts an end to the Mosaic law and the law of sacrifice. Remember the whole cleansing of the temple? Jesus died, resurrected 3 days. Jesus is like, I'm the last sacrifice. Y'all are done with that stuff. All right, well, let's just keep moving on. I thought I'd go through this briefly, but hokey smokes, I'm already at 20 minutes of blabbing on this. All right.
Fish, he fed the 5,000 with fish.
Yeah, so like I said,
And so I don't understand. But
So-
Jesus didn't say, stop, don't eat the fish. They are sentient beings. He fed.
All right, let's get into that. I'm trying to think. Okay, there's a couple. In Matthew chapter 16 and in Mark chapter 8, Jesus talks about feeding the 5,000 or 4,000. Because a lot of people don't even realize there's 2 times you fed 5,000, and another time you fed 4,000. They don't realize it was 2 different occasions. But both times it was all about bread. He sent the disciples to go get bread. He sent the disciples are like, we don't have enough money to buy bread. Everything was always about bread, bread, bread. And then when in those 2 books, when Jesus said, don't you remember the time when I fed the 5,000 all the loaves of bread, and when I fed the 4,000 all the loaves of bread? Read both of those accounts. When Jesus himself talks, or remembers those accounts, he doesn't talk about fish at all. There's a lot of church leaders who happen to believe, like in the first, second, and third century, who, when they wrote about it, they didn't write about fish at all. A lot of people think fish were added in, but even if they weren't, they came into the story not because the disciples carried fish with them, not because Jesus sent them to get fish. The fish was never a desire in the first place. What Jesus did was go get whatever the people in the audience have. They brought him, some kid in the audience, I think it's in John, they say he brought a few fish. All right, so Jesus was working with what they got. Jesus took a dead fish and multiplied more dead fish. Did a dead fish that was already dead and get multiplied suffer? No, this wasn't Jesus setting a formula for all future mankind to say, oh, I get to eat fish forever now because Jesus. No, he's just doing whatever he can with what's being there to show that he's the bread of life. He's not a dead fish savior. So more to it than that. But, okay, plug time for my book. All this is in my book, but I doubt that Mr. Kirk would ever read it. Let's keep going. I don't know.
Fish to people.
So like I said, in a survival situation where there's 5,000 people,
There was also
starving,
bread.
Yeah, but the bread has no protein. So in a survival.
Exactly, there was bread. And that's what Jesus was focused on. Again, in Matthew and in Mark, he said, don't you remember I fed you bread? He never said I fed you fish. A lot of people think fish was added. Even if you don't, if you're going to take it the way it is, Jesus still didn't care anything about saying, did you see how cool it was? I made fish. No, he talked about the bread only. So I would be sitting in the audience just shaking my head, kind of like I'm doing now. I'm just going, oh man, that's Charlie, you're not fairly representing Scripture there.
But hold on, Jesus is God. He could have been, here's a legume. Jesus is God. He could have said, here's an almond. He said, Jesus is God. He could have, here's a lentil. Yet Jesus said, here's fish.
No, he didn't say, here's fish. He said, go get me some bread. But when they came back with fish, he used what they got. It wasn't Jesus' desire. Yes, God can do anything, but he will always work within our free will. He gave us free will. And if they wanted fish, he was working with what they got. That doesn't mean it's God's chosen way. People often don't understand God's accommodation. One example of it in the New Testament is when Jesus says, hey, about divorce. God never wanted divorce, but because you did, here's the rules on how, Moses gave you rules on how to regulate it. They don't realize God does that in the Old Testament too. He does that, all over the place. And he's doing it here with fish. He's working with people where they're at. Yeah.
So who are you to question Jesus, who he fed the 5,000 with? He could have.
I'm not questioning Jesus. I'm questioning you and your understanding, Mr. Kirk, of the feeding of the loaves.
Said, here's tofu.
Again,
That's a good joke. I probably would have used that. All right. So kudos to Charlie for that one.
So the disciples ate fish and bread. That was what he multiplied. Right?
Yeah, the feeding of the 5,000, right?
But I think in this modern day, we do not need to eat meat to be healthy, have good performance, and survive. And therefore, causing immense suffering to these beings that do feel pain and suffering is wrong.
So I know this might seem unrelated, but I would hope to say you're also.
Okay, wherever he's going with this, but Michael, vegan guy Michael, makes a great point, and Charlie just won't acknowledge, won't concede he's wrong, won't admit that let's just change the subject.
Pro-life, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And of
So
course
you are
he's gonna go to the
consistent.
pro-life.
When vegans are not pro-life, that is a...
Yeah, I'm overall conservative. I agree with you on pretty much everything besides this one issue.
But you would agree, though, animals are not humans.
Yes.
Okay. But you would say...
But yet, not being human doesn't mean, oh, they're an item on the menu. I mean, God made covenants with animals in Genesis chapter 9. God gave animals souls. God breathed the breath of life into animals. God made animals from the same dust of the earth that he made Adam and Eve. God said animals are capable of sin. God said animals are capable of praising him. Just because, okay, so are they less than human? Yeah, but that doesn't mean we can abuse them and torture them unnecessarily. Mr. Kirk here has more money than I'll ever have. He can afford to get any kind of food he wants. And even you and me and just, us average guys, we can walk out our front door, get in our cars, whether it's a Beater or a Rolls Royce, doesn't matter, but we can drive in any direction from our house and within 5 minutes probably be at a grocery store where food has been flown in from around the world that doesn't involve animal abuse. Okay, we have a choice that Jesus and the 12 didn't have. All right, we wouldn't be having this conversation if this was the first century Palestine. This is 21st century America, and Mr. Kirk has no excuse. He has the finances. He has the ability. He can call Uber Eats every night if he wants to. He doesn't have an excuse. And
if I eat a steak, am I doing something immoral?
I think you are, and I think you are. All right. He's saying if I eat a steak, is Charlie, Mr. Kirk, is he doing something immoral? He knows animal abuse is wrong. He knows animal abuse is immoral. So if he is ordering a product that is made from animal abuse, then yes, Mr. Kirk, you are doing something immoral. Now, if you can find a cow that's been running around out in Cowland, wherever that is, and it just dies at 23 years old of old age, throw it on the barbecue. Nothing immoral about that at all. Okay, but you didn't. You took a cow that while it was still a baby, or if it's a dairy cow about 5 years old, only a fraction of the lifespan that God gave them and wanted them to live, you cut it short so you could eat them for an unnecessary product. So yes, you getting a steak is immoral. And it's not immoral. If you weren't a Christian, I couldn't argue this with you like that. But you say over and over in all your interviews, I keep looking up here, even though my camera's here. I keep looking at Charlie on the, I got to get used to this stuff. I forgot where I was going. Let's just go back to this.
I would say that if you eat a steak knowing that, and you didn't have to, and you chose to pay for an animal.
Yes, I plan to do this tonight. So tell me what. Tell me.
So, like I said, I think the breeding.
Okay, that was just rude. Okay, I know, I make a lot of jokes. I made a decent living off telling stupid jokes. That is a joke that was rude. He knows that Michael has a passion, a concern for animal suffering. But Mr. Kirk is so cold-hearted there that he made a joke about eating a product made from animal suffering tonight. Like it was nothing. He got a laugh from the audience. He's playing to his audience. He's an entertainer right now. He's not in fact mode. He's just in entertainment mode. And I know that feeling. I've done it myself. I said it like this once in an interview. I said, I think comedy should have no limits. The only limits should be the comedian, what the comedian wants to put on his humor. As a comic, I used to tell a joke about Charles Manson. And I thought, would I want to tell this joke if a member of Sharon Tate's family was in the audience? It was a funny joke, but I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. So I'm for free speech. I'm for Mr. Kirk saying rude things like that, but he's a Christian. He has this responsibility not to do that. I don't tell that joke anymore. And don't write me and ask me what it is, because honestly, it's been 30 years and I don't even remember it. I didn't give it up because I was a vegan. I gave up that joke because I'm a Christian. I'm like, I could be hurting some people. I can get better. I can get laughs without resorting to, insults are one thing, but hurt is another. I'll pick on people because once you step on stage, the audience knows you're just messing with them. And if you're picking on them, I pick on people with long hair because I got long hair. I pick on, you just know when the comedian's on stage that, the gloves are off and that you sit down knowing you could be made picked on. But this was just hurtful. Insults are one thing, hurtful is another. I'm going way too much time on this hurt thing. Let's keep moving on in this video.
Exploitation and killing of animals for food is immoral, yes.
Immoral?
Yes.
But by what moral standard do you derive that from?
Well, are you against animal cruelty?
Of course I am. No one wants cruelty. In fact, the Bible...
No one wants cruelty, but I'm going to eat food and wear shoes and promote things that exist because of animal cruelty. Yeah, the cognitive dissonance is deep.
Explicitly against animal cruelty. And
okay, the Bible, yes, I agree. The Bible is against animal cruelty. So where does animal cruelty come in? I just did I got a couple of videos on this already, but let me just put it to you like this. Genesis chapter 1 is the only chapter in the Bible where we have everything the way God wanted it to be. So he made birds to fly. He made fish to swim. He made animals to run with legs to run. He made animals with eyes to see. And if we deny animals these abilities to practice these natural behaviors that God gave them, that is animal abuse. So any animal that's locked up in a factory farm that doesn't get to experience the sun the way God wanted it to is abuse. If a chicken is stuck in a cage with 3 other chickens that's so small that it can't even open up its wing, that's animal abuse. Okay, God gave it wings to use the wings. You can get the idea. So yeah, that is all animal abuse. All right.
so all of us should be. The animals actually made an appearance in the 10 Commandments. Animals got a Sabbath. They got a day off. It says for 6.
And none of the animals in the factory farms where you get your food from, Mr. Kirk, get a day off from the suffering. They are suffering every single day of the week.
6 days you shall work, and 1 day you shall rest, including your ox and your animal. So the Bible actually has done more for animal rights than any other ancient scripture that we can ever find.
More than Jainism? More than Hinduism and Buddhism? I mean, how does he make these claims? I haven't studied a lot of other religions. I'm just a Jesus freak, so that's really, 90% of my knowledge. But, when it comes to the animal thing, I had to, because I do all these videos and I do vegan outreach and stuff, I had to at least look into them. And, more? I don't know about more. Go talk to a Jain sometime.
So I'm all there. No one wants animal cruelty. However,
unless it tastes good.
I just want to understand by what moral framework do you say it is immoral to eat the meat of something that is not human, especially if we get nutrients and we human beings are able to flourish?
I think I just said it. By what metric? Genesis chapter 1, God's blueprint for the perfect world, how he wanted everything to be. Not what happened in the world in the Noahic covenant after Genesis chapter 3 when sin entered the world. Not what happened under the Mosaic covenant when, thousands of years after sin entered the world. God has one place, just one page in the entire Bible where it's the way he wants it, and it's vegan. That's the metric. I want to hear what Michael says here.
I would say, why are you against animal cruelty?
Oh, good one.
Well, first of all, no one wants to see something suffer unnecessarily. But if and when you are able to derive calories, nutrients, and I would also contest one of the other things.
Okay, those calories and nutrients you can get from non-animal abuse sources. I am a vegan. I've been vegan since 2008. That's what? 17 years? Is it getting that bad that I need a calculator just to figure that out? It's so rare I do math. And I'm not dying. I'm in perfect health. I'm 63 years old. The only medications, I don't take medications. The only thing I take is a multivitamin because when you're in your 60s, your body just doesn't absorb nutrients like it did when you're in your 30s. So for general principle, I'll spend 25 cents a day on a multivitamin. I mean, come on. Even meat eaters do that. So yeah, all the nutrients you want, it's in plants.
That I do believe we need animal-based protein. In fact, I think one of the main reasons.
Okay, you can believe whatever you want, but it's not true. You don't need animal-based proteins in your diet to survive. I'm alive. My wife is alive. Since I started this whole vegan thing, I have hundreds of vegan friends that have been vegan for 30, 40 years, some of them their entire lives. Never had any animal protein, and they're healthy, not on a single medication. So no, he's stating it like it's fact. There's my hand. Like it's fact. The audience is believing him because they worship, conservatism more than they do God, which I think is embarrassingly sad because I think I'm pretty conservative too. I'm very conservative, but I still put God first. And okay, where am I? I want to stay on this. What was I saying? I wish this was a live stream because I could then people could say, "Hey, Steve, you were talking about this," and you got off subject.
And maybe you're able to work it out. That young men are seeing such a dramatic drop in testosterone rates is the removal of animal-based proteins from diets, so young men especially, ages 10, 11, and 12, and replacement of a lot of these counterfeit soy-based, plant-based proteins.
So studies have found that with equal...
Okay, I remember what Michael said, or part of what Michael said, but I want to go back to what he just said. What did he say, 11 and 12-year-old kids? What study did they do where they took 11 and 12-year-old kids and fed them nothing but soy meats or whatever it may be, or mock meats or anything like that? He just spits this out like it's fact, and it's not. There's nothing factual. Maybe there is a study, but I've never heard of anything like that. Can you imagine somebody at school saying, yeah, we're going to take this entire class of 12-year-olds and we're going to feed them nothing, then we're going to measure their testosterone. I am, again, 63 years old. I don't eat meat. My testosterone score was 800 on the last checkup that I did. $800. Do you know what that is? That's like being a 17-year-old boy reading a Playboy. All right. I have crazy testosterone. It wasn't like that back when I was eating meat. I think it was in the 300s and 400s. Oh, do I remember being 17 with a... Okay.
Calorie and protein intake, there is zero difference between in testosterone levels between animal-based diet and...
Have you ever heard the term soy boy?
Yes, of course. I am a soy boy. Yes.
You are?
Okay. First off, Michael comes by with some technical talk back, and Mr. Kirk realizes he needs to concede his point because he can't prove, anything he just said. So what does he do? He shifts to comedy mode. And you ever hear of a soy boy? Oh.
You're a soy boy.
In terms of, that's what people call vegans. So yes, I am.
I didn't call you that. I just said, have you ever heard of the term?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so have you ever heard of the term? Here's a man who's standing in front of him in a room full of his people, pat on the back for that, saying, I don't think animals should be hurt. I think animal abuse is wrong. You have the opportunity to get food that isn't made from animal abuse. You can survive a long, healthy life without food made from animal abuse. What do you think? And Mr. Kirk's reply is, you ever hear of soy boys? Just address the comment that was made or answer the question. But Kirk keeps moving the goalposts. That's not moving the goalposts. That's just changing it because I don't think he wants to concede that he's wrong.
I've heard of the term, yeah.
Okay.
So that's because
hold on, but again, I don't want to get too deep into biology, but
I don't want to get too deep into biology because I don't know what I'm talking about. Come on, Mr. Kirk. You're better than that. Gosh, you're such a smart guy.
Soy is inherently estrogenic, right?
So soy has phytoestrogens. They're not actual estrogens. They work in the body similar to a SERM, which is a selective estrogen receptor modulator. What that actually does, in some situations, that can actually lower estrogen in males if they have an estrogen imbalance, and
suppress testosterone production.
It does not suppress the testosterone production. Studies have found equal testosterone between meat eaters and vegans, considering calories and protein equal. In addition, many professional athletes
No. The consumption
are
of
vegan.
soy. The consumption of soy.
Yeah, I mean, most, in order to...
Let's get down to one last question, though, just from a very technical one.
Oh.
Wouldn't you agree that...
Did you notice that? Okay. Michael gives him a totally logical, scientific kind of answer. And rather than Charlie Kirk come back saying, oh, I wasn't aware of those kinds of studies, I've changed my mind now. He just changes the subject because he doesn't want to deal with it. Oh, my.
It is far more expensive to eat vegan than to eat animal-based protein? You have to go out of...
it's about the same. Like a pound of... Like when I, before I went vegan, I'd have like 93% ground beef for like lean protein. That'd be like... At Aldi, it was like $6. So now I eat seitan, which most people don't know because it's I just eat meat. But it has in 400 calories, it has 80 grams of protein, and it's only $5. So I mean, it's not that expensive to eat vegan.
So, but let me just ask you one last question on this, because almost everything you...
Okay. He just, again, Michael told him what he eats, gave him some prices. And Mr. Kirk should have, if this was an honest discussion, he would have said, okay, I was under the impression it was more expensive. Obviously it's not, and I was wrong. You won't hear those words out of Mr. Kirk's mouth. No. I eat so cheap being vegan. It's just amazing. I can get, a couple pounds of, let's talk about breakfast. If I get a bag of frozen blueberries and bag of walnuts, oatmeal, and some soy milk. Okay. I'll spend less than $20. I don't know, maybe if I get the big bags at Costco. So, okay, less than $30, but that's enough for a month of breakfast. Okay. That comes out to like $1 a day for breakfast. I mean, by which way is he saying it's expensive?
Consume has to be either manufactured or put together, where actually the way we're arguing to eat is far more of the earth and far more of whole foods. The vegan...
No.
Vegans actually have to go out of their way to try and have different ingredients and compositions and oils that largely are far...
No, I just mentioned totally of the earth foods, blueberries, walnuts, oatmeal. These are totally natural of the earth. Okay. You're talking about cows that are fed all kinds of chemicals, growth hormones, antibiotics. They're eating tons of vegetation that's covered in outrageous amounts of pesticides. And yeah, okay. Keep going, Charlie.
Are more human interference into the consumption of the food process, right? Which one is more of the earth, eating vegan or eating, let's just say, more paleo, not necessarily carnivore?
So I'll answer that, then I have one question to ask back to you. In terms of the food itself, I eat mostly pretty much just whole food vegan. Like sometimes I'll eat a vegan, like Impossible Burger. That's not necessarily healthy.
No, time out, hold on. That is like the most manufactured...
I know, that's not healthy.
Not even healthy. Now you're proving my point. Like, let's just be clear. An Impossible Burger...
No, he's not proving your point. What you're trying to do is move away from him answering the question, the statement you made prior. He is proving you wrong, and you need to change the direction of this conversation. Because you're losing. You're losing big time. Luckily, your audience isn't smart enough to catch up on that. You're a smarter man than that, Mr. Kirk, so you know where you're going.
Has like 50 ingredients that you cannot pronounce.
I can name so many chemicals that are in the burger you are eating compared to the burger, the Impossible Burger, which is all plant.
And it is made in like a lab. Literally, it's like lab-grown meat, and versus a cow.
I understand. I'm not saying it's healthy, but
No,
at the
but
same time, a cheeseburger is not the staple of a healthy diet either, like with cows.
If I had to choose like a double cheeseburger from Culver's or an Impossible Burger, it's a double cheeseburger every single day. That is better for you. Like, it's not even close.
Okay, hold on. Let me. Okay. I'm looking for Culver's. Okay. Oh, thank you, ChatGPT. I'm looking at what's likely chemical residues in the factory-fed animals where Culver's gets their food from. Antibiotics such as tetracycline, tylosin, I don't know what this stuff is, hormones, trenbolone, estradiol, potential endocrine disruptors in humans, pesticides like glyphosate, which is a possible carcinogenic, heavy metals such as arsenic and cadmium, which accumulates in tissues over time, mycotoxins such as aflatoxin, liver toxins, even at low levels, racto. God, this is why I do magic and juggling, because I can't pronounce these words. Ractopamine, which is banned in 160 countries, may affect heart rate, banned in Europe, China, etc. These chemicals are all in trace amounts. Okay. However, with the Impossible Burger, there's no animal hormones or antibiotic residues. There might be pesticides present. I'm looking at the bottom line, and ChatGPT telling me is that, so while Impossible may have more synthetic sounding ingredients on the label, a Culver's burger may contain hidden agricultural chemical residues that don't get listed at all. Okay, I could go into more of that. Let's get back to this. I'm kind of having fun. I think I'm having fun with the new program, or with this program. Well, it's not a new one. It's just new to me.
It's like not even close.
That's fair. But either way,
And let me interrupt.
you can eat mostly whole
The
foods.
fact that we have to make Frankenfood, like Frankenstein food, is one of the greatest arguments that we should continue to eat real meat.
Okay, you said the fact. It's not a fact. Vegans existed long before these Frankenfoods ever came out, and they lived long, healthy lives before Impossible Burgers or Beyond Burgers or any of that stuff even came on the market. So it's not a fact. No, you're wrong again, Mr. Kirk. Quit saying it's a fact, but the audience is going to believe it because he said it. And he's a smart guy, so they automatically assume, well, he's a smart guy. If he's saying it's a fact, it's a fact. Ain't a fact, no. So, and the audience cheers it. Ooh, oh well.
I eat only whole foods. Like
No, I got it. But you're the one that brought up Impossible Burgers. I didn't.
I know.
Right?
I was saying that you're gonna keep going and saying that that's not like an example. A lot of people use that as an example to shame veganism. Well, that's not an example of a healthy
I am
food
curious.
diet.
How did you get into this?
So he did change the subject. Yeah, he doesn't want to deal with this again. He just keeps changing the subject every time he's going to get proven wrong. I would have liked to have seen Michael spend more time on the religious aspect, though, because that's really where, well, of course I would like to, because that's where I would just constantly bring this up. His scripture jumping was kind of, let me just save that for when I'm done watching this, and I'll talk about that more. Yeah, he's picking on the Frankenfoods. You know, like I said, did I say it earlier in this video, or did I say it in another video I was doing? But how are the burgers and the sausages that humans are eating right now, carnists are eating right now, not Frankenfoods? I mean, you're taking eyeballs and lips and buttholes of pigs and stuffing it into a sausage casing and flavoring it with vegan flavorings just to make, how is that not processed? You know, it's being fed to an animal that's supposed to grow this big, but because the animal's been processed so much, the animal now grows this big. All of it involves processing, but they think it's natural. It's not. This is not the American Indians with a bow and arrow taking down a buffalo. What you are eating in the meat that comes from the meat aisle in the grocery store is highly processed crap. So if a vegan eats a Beyond Burger, I haven't had a Beyond Burger, I bet you, in over a year. Last time I remember, the wife brought 4 or 5 of them to a backyard barbecue so we would have something to eat. They knew there'd be a grill. So we had our snacks, we had our food. But really, I don't. What junk food do I eat? Oh, I love, like, we have so many great vegan restaurants. I eat total vegan junk food when I go out. I eat super clean at home. But I think that's what this Michael guy is pretty much saying. He's like, occasionally he'll have some junk food. And occasionally meat eaters have junk food. They don't get flack for that. I know Charlie is not judging the vegan guy by the same parameters that he would judge a meat eater. He's holding him to a standard that he's not holding to himself. I'm sure Charlie eats junk food too. You know, looking at his waistline, I'm sure he's had quite a few potato chips and Oreos.
I first got into it by I saw how animals were treated in factory farms, which I'm.
What did that guy yell?
99% of meat sold in America is factory farms. So a lot of people say, "Oh, grass-fed, pasture-raised."
I mean, look,
that is only a small percentage.
I do want to thank you, because we'll get to the next question. By the way, you guys, the line's
Oh,
over there.
he's running.
What's going on? It is hard to take an unpopular position, and you've taken a very unpopular public position, of which you should be commended for that.
All right, let me just get off that. All right, Mr. Kirk at that point is running. He is getting out of that conversation. Michael, you did a great job. You could have really torn him apart if he would have just dealt with the conversation. And that was I don't consider that a debate. A debate would have been, both of them sitting at a table, a moderator right there. He gets time, he gets time, he gets response, he gets response. It would have been much more structured. And if Charlie would have brought the arguments to a proper debate that he used in this clip here, he would have been eaten alive by somebody like Joey Carbstrong, Earthling Ed, any of the David Rams, any of the popular YouTubers that you guys might be watching. I would love to get into a religious conversation with him based on this, because as you heard, he only touched on a little bit. But enough to where I mean, hopefully anybody out there who knows me has read my book and they know the arguments. All right, so that's it. I wasted way too much time on this one. I could have said a ton more, but I think I'm going to come back to this again, and I'm going to invite a couple other Christian vegans that I know and see if they want to do a commentary with me on this, because this was kind of fun. I think there's more to this one, but I didn't spend a lot of time. All right, that's it for now. Until next time, peace, love, and all things groovy. I'm out of here.